page to specify what you are supposed to design, right? And unfortunately, it may be misunderstood. You may have misinterpreted what is being asked. I'm pretty sure all of you have undergone this experience. And then your design is different from what the professor expected you to submit. So such things can definitely occur in reality also, because see, specifications in the industry are written as large manuals. Okay, if you are curious to know, go and look for specifications of various protocols, communication protocols, and so on. Those manuals run into hundreds of pages, right? So somebody has to digest all that and then come up with a design which so functional bugs are likely to creep in. Today I thought I will spend a little time on we'll pick up system Verilog, no doubt, but I will first spend a little bit of time on trying to use tools which are available. See, unfortunately, I can't show you system Verilog, so I thought I will show you what we already have. Right, just a minute. I will close these windows and get back to you. Let me start sharing some stuff here. See, I'll tell you a little bit about a device known as LFSR, right? You may have heard about linear feedback shift register, right? So search for LFSR on your computer, Google or whatever search engine you are using, and you will get to know what a linear feedback shift register is. It is sometimes called LFSR, and this is what it looks like. Okay, it's a shift register. So remember what a shift register is. It's a serial in, serial out. So if you only focus on this part, it is nothing but a shift register, right? So this is the most significant bit, and this is the least significant bit. And whatever we put in here, just you can do a right shift, and it will keep shifting, right? But in this shift register, what has been done is some feedback has been provided. Okay, so in this example, bits number 11 and 13, 14 and 16, right? They are being tapped here, and we have taken the XOR of all these bits and we have fed them back. Okay, so remember what a XOR gate does, right? If you recall, the Boolean function of an XOR is to serve as a half adder, right? You may recollect this. So if you submit 0 and 0 as inputs to an XOR gate, output is 0. Just like when we add 0 plus 0, the output is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 0 is 0. And when we add 1 and 1, the answer is 2, which is represented as 1, 0. So if you ignore that carry, the answer is 0. So a half adder is nothing but an XOR gate. So we have basically added these bits 11, 13, 14 and 16. We are of course ignoring the carry, and then that feedback is being given here. So the reason it's called linear is because it's sort of an addition, right? And it's a feedback shift register because we are feeding it back, right? Where is it useful? There are a lot of applications of LFSRs. It can be used as a sort of random number generator, right? You can use it to generate random numbers, right? And see, here is how you represent the LFSR, right? So here is a simple LFSR which is 2 bits only. So it has 2 bits, n equal to 2. Here is n equal to 8, and here is n equal to 13, and so on, right? So there is an encoding that is sort of represented as a polynomial, right? So let me try to explain this maybe in PowerPoint or something like that. So let us say, let us take this. Let us take maybe this one. 1 plus x power 5 plus x power 6. So let me start with a simpler one first, and then I'll come back to this. Let us do 1 plus x square plus x cube. Okay. So whatever is the highest degree of the polynomial, or what we call as the degree of this polynomial, that is the number of flip-flops. So in this example, there are 3 flip-flops. So let us pretend that these are D flops. So remember what a D flop does. It is also called as a data. So whatever is the input, the D input, right? That D input is what is passed on after a delay when the clock goes from 1 to 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, right? So let me, oops, sorry. So here is my, okay, never mind. So I'm building a shift register here. Okay, and then I'm going to tap the output 3 and output 2. That is what this really means. Okay, so these flip-flops are numbered 1, 2, 3. So this is your first flip-flop, second flip-flop, and third flip-flop. So I had to take an XOR gate. Okay, so let me assume that this is an XOR gate here. Okay, XOR gate. So this is an XOR gate. Okay, so the output of this guy, so 2 and 3 are being tapped. Okay, I'm sorry the drawing is not that great, but you understand what is going on. Okay, so and then this input is being fed back. This output of the XOR gate is being fed back. So assume that the initial state of the flip-flop, okay, let us say we have managed to send the output to this state. What does it mean? Initially, somehow I managed to have 0 here, and 1 here. Okay. Then see what is going to happen is in the next clock cycle, when I clock the flip-flops, the XOR of 0 and 1, right? These two bits are 0 and 1, that will appear here. And the other two bits will get shifted, right? So the 0 here will enter here, the 0 will enter here. And in the next clock cycle, the XOR of the two zeros will appear here and we'll have a shift. And in the next clock cycle, the XOR of the 1 and 0 will appear here and will shift. And the XOR of 0 and 1 and will shift. The XOR of 1 and 0 and will shift. And the XOR of 1 and 1 and will shift. And the XOR of 1 and 1 and will shift. Okay. So we have cycled back to the original state. Okay. So the number of states that we were able to generate are, see 0, 0, 1 is present, right? That is state 1. Then 0, 1, 0 is present, which is state 2. Then 0, 1, 1 is present, which is state 3. 1, 0, 0 is present, which is state 4. Then 1, 0, 1 is present, which is state 5. 1, 1, 0 is also present. 1, 1, 1 is also present. So all the states from 1 to 7 are present here. The only thing that is missing is the state 0, 0, 0. Okay. See, if you put the flip-flops into all 0 state, then unfortunately this LFSR will get stuck in that state. So it will keep cycling in the, so if you draw the state diagram, okay, so if you are in S0 state, then it will cycle back. Okay, you are back to the same, okay, you are back here. Okay. Whereas if you are in the other states, S1, okay, then from S1 you will go to S4. Then from S4 you will go to your S2. And then from S4 you will go to S5. And then S6. Then S7. And S3. And then it will cycle back to S1. So it will be like a cycle. And notice that the number of states here is 7, okay, which is the maximum number of states possible except for the 0 state. Flip-flops, the number of states is 2 to the power n, right? Each bit position can be in either 0 or 1. So there are 2 to the power n possible states, and we are cycling through all of them. Okay, I'm not drawing the arrows here. It's a painful experience to draw all the arrows, but all these arrows are there, and the last arrow is from here to here. Okay. So that is the state diagram. Okay. So you see, if I did not choose 2 and 3, right, and chose some other set, okay, then I may get a different state diagram. Okay, so what if I had chosen 3 and 1? Okay, then your state diagram will be different. Okay, So in the example that I was considering earlier, I have x bar 6 plus x bar 5 plus x bar 1. Okay, so I will let that be an exercise for you, right? So 1 plus x bar 5 plus x bar 6. So I will give you a couple of minutes to think about how this flip-flop looks like, how this LFSR looks like, right? And I want you to think about it. Okay, how many flip-flops are there? There are 6 flip-flops, right? Because the degree of this polynomial is 6, right? So I'll have to draw 6 flip-flops. So I have drawn 6 flip-flops. So this flip-flop is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the flip-flops that need to be tapped, or rather the outputs that need to be tapped, are the outputs of flip-flop 5 and 6. So it is very, so we are taking these two and there's only one XOR gate required and we cycle it back. Okay, so I will let you draw that, right? And I want you to check whether all the states are getting generated. Okay, that is our challenge. Do we really get all the states or not? Okay, if I took something else, let us say x bar 2 plus x bar 5 plus x bar 6. Okay, in this case, it's a different flip-flop. It's a different LFSR, right? Here I'm tapping the outputs of 2, 5, and 6. So we don't know how the behavior is going to change, right? So if the specification given was that we were supposed to implement an LFSR which implements this polynomial. This is also known as a characteristic polynomial. So suppose somebody went and tried to design this, right, and wrote some Verilog code, right? Human errors can occur, right? Maybe you made an incorrect, instead of 2, you took 3. Can happen, right? This was especially true when people used to do schematic capture, or let us say layout directly into the computer, right? I don't know whether you have done something like that, but there are tools which allow you to directly uh, sort of enter the layout into the computer screen, right? These are called custom layout tools. And wires, when we are trying to design a large circuit, I may miss route all the wires and I may get into some sort of a problem. Unfortunately, it will work. The LFSR will work, but it is not the LFSR that was intended. So that is what is called as a functional bug. Okay. Now, how do I simulate something like this? Of course, you can write this in Verilog, right? And that is what we will ultimately get to, right? But since I cannot illustrate system Verilog for you today, so I will challenge you to think about what can we do? How can we simulate this, right? I want to simulate a this particular one, x bar 5 plus x bar 6, or x bar 2 plus x bar 5 plus x bar 6. Okay. So think for a minute and I will tell you the solution that I have in mind, and you can do it as an exercise in your own. Okay. So this is a very familiar tool. All of you may know this. This is a Excel. Everybody has access to this, right? So what? And that these are all the outputs of a flip-flop. Okay. So I'm going to pretend that this is the output of the first flip-flop. Initially, I had 0, 0. So I hope my audibility and visibility are okay. Vineet? Am I being audible, guys? Audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Slides are visible
Okay.
and you are audible.
Okay, okay, fine. I think momentarily the gods were a little upset, but now they are cooled down.
Yes, sir. Sir, only thing like slide sharing takes a little more bandwidth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Today is quite good, sir.
Okay, okay. So this is our x1 or the output of the first flock x2, x3, x4, x5, x6. So I need to XOR x5 and x6, which is E. The cell is E1 and this cell is F1. Okay, so I'm going to say I don't know whether XOR is available. XOR may or may not be available. Is it available? I don't know. They don't have XOR. So what we'll do is we will add and yeah. See, I hope you guys remember if you want to take n bits, you can do some modulo 2. Okay, so I'm going to add E1 plus F1, these two bits, and I'm going to take it modulo 2. Okay. Let me see how to do that. Is mod is there? This is the modulo sum, modulo 2, sum of E1 and F1 modulo 2, right? And this will be your A1. This will be your, this B1. This will be your C1, and this will be your D1, and this will be your E1. The advantage of Excel is you can just, if you just drag it like this, it will duplicate the formula. Okay. So now what it has done is it has automatically set E2 F2 here, right? That is a property of your Excel, right? So you can see it is shifting. One got shifted, the XOR of 0 and 0 got shifted here and so on, right? So if I continue this, it will continue to simulate, right? And I can simulate one more. Okay. So finally we have some action. This 1 and 0 came here, right? And then so on. So you can keep dragging it. We seem to know how many states there are. It will be 2 to the power 6 minus 1. So we can directly go till 63, right? In reality, you will not know that, right? And if I do one more, it should cycle back to 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay. So clearly there is some, but there is, this is E. I have put E1 and F1, right? And this is, oh, I'm sorry. There is some, I think I made a mistake. Now it may be okay. Okay. See, I had left one blank row and it was causing the problem. This you can try it yourself. Go ahead and feel free to try this as an exercise right now. Okay. So the output of the flip-flops will be like this. Right? So, in the 43rd clock cycle, you will get this. Okay. The reason why it is a random number generator is notice that the outputs appear to be pretty random. Okay. So if you treat this as a binary number, this number happens to be 1 followed by 5 zeros, which is I believe 32. Right. Next we are getting 16, 8, 4, 2. Then all of a sudden we are getting 33. So it's a sort of a random. It appears like a. So it's called as a pseudo random sequence. It's pseudo random because if I change, let us say, the seed. This is called the seed. What I put initially in the flip-flops is known as a seed, right? And if I change it to, let us say, something else, let us say I change it to 1, then the whole sequence will change. See, everything changed. Okay. Possibly have all the, see, it still cycled back to this 101. Okay, so at the end we still have 101, but the sequence that I'm getting is completely different. In your chat box, tell me if there is anything that I can explain. Okay. Now let us do the same exercise, but this time let us take the one which I indicated here, 1 plus x power 2 plus x power 5 plus x power 6, right? So again, initially I have 0, 0. So I started with the same initial state. Okay. This is x1, x2, x3. So x2 is k1. Okay, so I'm going to take the sum of k1 plus n1 plus o1. Okay, and something is wrong here. K1 is this, n1 is this, o1 is this.
Sir, actually, sir, you are at 20th row, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. 0, 0, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So this is mod of k1 plus n1 plus o1, and this is j1. This is k1. This is and then let us drag this to the next value. So I get a different state and so on. So far nothing seems to have repeated. I want to know whether 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 will repeat. Okay. See, it repeated here itself. Okay. So you can see that this only generates 21 states. Okay, so it started from the 0001 state here, right? Then unfortunately, within 21 states, it went back. So you see, this choice of the polynomial is quite crucial, right? If you don't choose the right polynomial, you will not get this periodicity of 2 power n minus 1. Okay. When you get that periodicity, it is called as the maximal length LFSR, right? And it is not that these are the only ones. See, there may be some other characteristic polynomial which also gives me maximal length, right? So they have somebody has done the research and found out some characteristic polynomials for all the values up to maybe 24 bits here they have provided, and they have given a reference for more than 24. Okay, there is some other place where you can go and find up to 168. So you may be curious, why would anybody need 168 bits and all that? They have even gone up to 4096 here, right? In communication circuits, it will be important, right? So in error detection, if bit changes, see, imagine that these are all bits being transmitted, right? In your those what are they called, the universal serial asynchronous synchronous communication, UART, right? Basically you have a shift register, right, which is shifting out the bits and sending them, and then they are being assembled at the receiving end, and imagine some bits are corrupted or something like that, right? See, if some bit gets corrupted, then we will know right away that there is a problem, right? And I'll illustrate that a little bit later, right? So far, I hope you understood what an LFSR is, right? And how you can even use a simple tool like Excel, right? The advantage of, I think, system Verilog or Verilog in such matters is, see, here it is a little painful if I have to change a spec, right? If the spec changes, then it's not very obvious how to fix this. And it is a little crazy because I just made a mistake, without realizing I was in the wrong row. So these are not meant for those applications, but you can use them for some quick and dirty modeling and simulation. This is what is modeling. I'm modeling an LFSR here, right? Any doubt so far? Right. I will let you try this larger example. It will be very interesting. You can try this bigger ones, let us say 24-bit, and I think your Excel may not allow this, right? These many rows it may not be able to have, right? So here that is another problem of Excel, etc. So that is why it's better to use something like Verilog. Or even C language is okay. See, C itself can be used as a modeling language. System C also exists, where they took C language and converted it into System C. At some point of time, it was quite popular. I think in the mid 90s, there was a lot of talk about System C, but I think System Verilog has become very popular as a hardware modeling language. You can also write a C program for this. That is what I think they have provided some programs also here, right? This is in, they have even provided a sample program, right? I will leave that as an exercise to you, right? Now, where else is the LFSR useful, right? I was telling you about these communication circuits, right? So let me redraw this a little bit. Let me try to copy this whole thing. Or let me go back to my 3-bit. That is good enough. 3. And let me have a XOR some combinational circuit. So this combination circuit has one output. Okay. And this is an LFSR. Okay. And it has the same cycling, etc. Normally, I will XOR these 2 bits, right? I will XOR these 2 bits. Okay. But this time I will XOR all these 3 bits. Okay. All right. And this output of XOR is being given here. You understood now? So this XOR gate is receiving these 3 inputs. Normally in the LFSR, I will only feed these 2 guys back, and I will only have this part. So this would be missing, right? So this would not have been there normally, but now I am also adding this. Let us assume that this combination circuit is a let us say it is the majority vote. Remember, I told you about the majority voter yesterday. It takes 3 inputs. Let us say it's a 3-to-1 majority voter. Okay. I hope all of you have now figured out what is the logic for majority voter. If all the bits are, if 2 or more bits are 1, the output of the majority voter is a 1. If 2 or more bits are 0, the output is a 0. So can you think about what the logic is going to be and tell me? Somebody is telling me that I should have used K20 or something. Huh? I don't know. Did I make a mistake? I was taking N20, O20, and K20. Yeah, it's okay, right? So this is a small exercise for you. Design the majority voter and tell me what the answer should be. Let us call this suppose I call this bit x2 or y2. This is y1. This is y0. So what should this be? A, B, C bar. No, that's not correct. You can use your truth table if you want. Okay, let me show you quickly. Okay. So let's assume that this is 0, 0, 0. Then the output is 0 because majority of 0, 0 is 0. Here also the output is 0. This output is 1 because two of them are 1. Okay. Output is 0. So tell me what the output is. I think Vaishnavi has given the correct answer. Shruti also has given correct answer. Jyotsna is also right. Nandini, you did not minimize, right? You did not do optimal design, right? So if you do the optimal design, if you draw the Karnaugh map, you will realize the output is y2 y1 plus y1 y0 plus y0 y2. Okay, so that is the answer. That's the correct answer. So that is what is supposed to come here, right? And we have connected it like this. Okay. Now let us pretend that we had put 0, 0, 0 in this register. 0, 0, 0 has been put into this LFSR. Okay, so I had initialized it to 0, 0, 0. And let us assume that somebody has given some inputs to y0, y1, y2. Okay, and those inputs are like this: 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. And 0. I have got some inputs to the majority voter. Okay. Now you tell me simulate it and tell me what the output should be. What should be the output? For the 001 case, the simulation will tell me that it should be 1. Sorry, 0. Right? And for the case of the 110, the output is 1. The case of 111, the output is 1. The case of the remaining two are 0, 0. So this is the sequence that is going to enter here. So now let us simulate and tell what the output here is going to be. What will be LFSR be? So we initially reset the flip-flops. Okay. I am going to make an assumption that the majority voter is also the inputs are coming at the same clock rate. Okay, these inputs are being changed at the same clock rate. So maybe there is a register which has all these values 001, and the register is also supplying the data at the same clock rate. Okay, so under that assumption, when I go from 000, what will be the next state? So can you tell me, this is an exercise for you, simulate and tell me. I had 0, and another 0 came, so nothing is going to happen. It will remain in the same state, 0. Then I have a 1. So this time the XOR of 0 and 1 will enter here, and these two will shift. And the next one will cause similar behavior, 1, 1, 0. Okay. And the next 0 will cause 1, 1, 1. And the next 0 will cause 0, 1, 1. Tell me if I have done this correctly. Can you verify? Okay. Nandini is saying, okay, sir. I don't know what that is for. So tell me if my simulation is correct. Yes, sir. Jyotsna is correct, she's saying. So Jyotsna has given me pass. So you see, some of you designed this majority voter, right? It looked like this. So it had a y1, y2. So we had y1, etc. Well, I know I'm not going to draw all this. You please draw it on your own. So this is your y1, y2 plus y1, y0 plus y0, y2 circuit. Okay. Now this was supposed to have been designed. Okay. But suppose somebody made a mistake, right, when wiring it, or something went wrong. Okay. And instead of connecting this wire to this output of the AND gate, by mistake it was connected to, let us say, logic 1. Okay. They short circuited it to the supply voltage. This is a wiring error that can occur. It can go to ground or it can go to supply. Okay. So now tell me, what will be the simulation? What will be the output of the XOR gate? The unfortunately, because of this being supplied to 1, the OR gate is always going to give a 1 here. Right? So in all the clock cycles, I'll get 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So that is the faulty output. Okay. So what will be the fault simulation? So if you simulate the fault, initially we'll reset the flip-flops, then it will go to 1 0 0 state, right? Because I am getting a 1. Then again it will go to 1 1 0 state. Right? Then I'll get a 0 1 1 state. And I'll get 1 0 1 state. And then I'll get 0 1 0 state. Am I right? So can you verify whether I did it right? So this circuit has a fault. This wire stuck at 1. We call it as a stuck at 1 fault. Okay. So whatever this value is, the input to this XOR gate, if you have given some names, let us say these are called Z1, Z2, Z3. So this is Z1 stuck at 1. If there was a different fault, let us say Z1 stuck at 0, then I'll get a different sequence. Okay, and I can simulate that. So you can observe that the value here in the LFSR at the end of the simulation is 011, whereas the value here is 010. So they are not the same. Okay, so they are not the same, and that is a sort of a indication that there is a fault. Okay, we can use the LFSR to build a circuit like this, right? And if everything is fine, if all the faults, if all the circuitry is all right, there are no faults, then at the end we get the signature, the 011. We can decide how many clock cycles we need to simulate it for, right? In this case, I stopped after 5 cycles, right? I decided to stop after 5, but it depends on you. The person who is creating the test bench will decide. Okay. I threw random vectors here, right? I just generated random. These are called test vectors. Okay, and I have generated them pretty randomly now, right? And I did a good circuit simulation. So this one is the good circuit simulation, and this is the fault simulation. And I also simulated the this part of the circuit, right? And I found that the content of the LFSR is 011 in the fault-free case and 010 in the faulty case. Okay, so this is called the signature. Okay, the signature, good circuit signature. Okay. And faulty circuit signature. So this is also a kind of testing. Okay, it is called compression testing. Okay, we don't need to actually compare the outputs. Okay, see, the outputs are 5 bits. Okay, in this example there are 5 bits because I decided to clock it for 5 clock cycles, but the signature is only 3 bits. Okay, take another example where I have a output is, let us say, 100 bits. Okay, because I decided to clock it for 100 clock cycles. Even then the signature is going to be only 3 bits. So this could be instead of majority voter, imagine that this is the the circuit, I'm sorry, the communication you are receiving from some outside, this is your telecom circuit which is bringing the bits, right? And occasionally something may go wrong. Occasionally a bit may change from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0 because of the channel noise and all that, right? So here we can have the signature. This is only called signature register. This whole stuff is called the signature register. So we can easily build such signature registers, right? And that is where your bigger LFSRs are required. Okay, so if I just take a 3-bit LFSR, then I can't be sure whether see, suppose I have hundreds of bits that I am trying to compress, right? Then what is the guarantee that the signature of the good circuit and the signature of the faulty circuit turn out to be the same, right? That chance is there. Okay, we call that aliasing. Okay, that is called aliasing. Okay. So aliasing means when faulty signature matches good circuit signature. This will happen if you have a small LFSR, right? Or a small number of flip-flops, and the number of clock cycles for which you are exercising it is large. Okay. But if you are willing to give larger number of flip-flops, okay, then this probability of aliasing becomes smaller. Okay. In general, the number of if the number of bits in the LFSR or the register is n bits, so suppose it is n bits, then the aliasing so it is assumed to be 1 by, if all the patterns are equally likely, if all inputs are equally likely, then the aliasing probability is 1 by 2 power n. So if n is 32 or 16, that aliasing probability is quite small. Okay, it is not a foolproof method of testing. There is a small chance that we'll think that there is no fault, but there is a fault. The aliasing may mask a fault. Okay, that is called fault masking. Okay. So we are trying to find out through simulation, right, whether what the good signature is supposed to be, right, and whether aliasing occurs and stuff like that. Okay, and it is in situations like this that you need to build all these Verilog and system Verilog, etc. You can do it in Excel, right? So we'll try to do it in Excel, but it will take a little bit of effort, right? And it is not documented, long-term solution. It's okay for one homework problem. You can't do such things as a practice. You can do it in C language though. You could write a fault simulation in C language, but it's not a it's not an industrial solution. So that is the reason why we have languages like Verilog and System Verilog. Any doubts here? I will pause here and ask you to ask some doubts. So signature testing is like comparison. You are right. I think Aniruddha is asking whether you can compare it to hashing. In a way, you're right. It's like hashing. Yeah, whenever you are trying to compress data. See here, if there are 100 inputs, y0, y1, y2, suppose I allow it for 100 clock cycles, there are 100 bits coming out of the majority voter. But I am compressing them into 3 bits of signature. Okay, just like, see, when you send your check to your bank, right, you are not going in person, right? You are just sending it by mail or whatever, and they are trusting that your signature is, a replacement for your personal presence. Okay. And they are going to honor the check based on your signature. In the same way, if the signature is 011, we'll assume that this circuit is good. If the signature is anything other than 011, we'll declare that this circuit has a fault. Okay, so that's the. Any other question? That's a good observation. Hashing is in a way similar. Even two different strings may hash to the same. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So what I have written here is known as a serial input shift register. Okay. So it's sometimes called SISR. Serial input shift register, signature register. I can easily I can easily create what is called as a MISR. So let me just copy this. Okay. See, instead of majority voter, suppose it was some other circuit. Let us say 2 outputs. Okay, maybe it's a half adder. Sorry. The full adder will have 2 outputs. Okay. And let us say this is the sum output and I have another carry output. And I have a XOR gate here. My diagram is very, not so good. You can write it much better. Okay. And we will take this output and this feedback output that is coming in, I can give it to this also. Okay. And this looks very bad. I'm sorry, the diagram is not that good. Right. And I can give this here. Okay, my apologies for this horrible diagram, but I think you got the point, right? So this is called a multiple input signature register because I have multiple inputs here. So in this example, I will have 5 inputs to the full adder, and I will have 10 bits coming out. Okay, in each clock cycle, I'll get 10 bits, and they are getting compressed here. So we'll have to simulate, and this simulation may not be correct. So we'll have to do it differently. So this also I'm not sure. We'll have to do it. Okay, so that is a sort of an exercise. Okay, so let us try that. So first let us do a serial in serial register. So initially the output is 0, 0, 0. Okay, this is our shift the signature register input. And this is the signature register. And let us pretend the outputs coming from the majority voter are given here. They are 0, 1, 1, 0, 0. So these are all my so this is let us say Q1, Q2, Q3, and this is my output. Okay. Now I have to draw the XOR of these 3 bits. Right? So I'll have to say mod of Q2 plus Q3 plus this guy. Okay, subject. And then this will be the same shifting. Okay. And I'll have to continue this. And one more clock cycle. How come it's not matching? 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. I'm getting a different answer here. Can anybody verify what I did wrong? So this is my, these are my flip-flop outputs 0, 0, and this one B2. Either this is wrong or the one which I did earlier is wrong. Okay, what is the mistake I did? You took C equal to A, sir. I have reversed everything. Huh? What did I do? Sir, should the LFSR output always be given? Yeah, XOR gates is important. Yeah. It's linear only if you use XOR gate. Okay, because I told you about the linearity property. An XOR gate acts as an adder. Okay, modulo 2. Okay. What is Gaurav saying something? I have made some mistake here. What is it? This is this is B2 is this guy, C2 is here, and this is the input coming from the other circuit, E2, and this is A2, and this is oh, okay, this is wrong. Sorry. Okay, so it's okay. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. Let us see what we had got. Yeah, I think it matches what we did earlier. Right. So this was our golden signature if we stop after 5 clock cycles. So if you continue, it will give me different answers. We can also simulate the MISR. Okay, let us take the MISR now. So this is my Q1, Q2, Q3, and let us take a full ladder, right? These are the inputs of a Y1, Y2, sorry, Y2, Y1, Y0. And let us give some inputs. We had given these inputs. 16710. 16710. So the first input is 1. 6. 1. 7. And then and so on. So the outputs from the full adder are sum and carry. The sum is the XOR of these three guys, right? Maybe I can write carry and sum. So the sum is a and the what is here? This will be AB plus BC plus A. So OR of AND of these two guys AND of these two guys. It is taking it as logic and giving me false. Okay. So what we have to do is if this is 0, then 1 else. So if I continue this, so verify 0, 0, 1 is giving me 0, 1, 1, 1, 0 is giving me 1, 0. This is giving me 1, 1. This is giving me 0, 1. Okay, so I believe it's correct. Okay, so far so good. Any doubts here? Any doubts? Gaurav Hirani is saying you did both B and C equal to A in the shifting operation. Maybe you are referring to the previous one. Okay. So I took a half full ladder and simulated it here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate a MISR right? Initial state of the MISR is 0, 0, 0. Right? Now this bit, I'm going to take it as the XOR of the sum and carry. The sum happens to be here, and the carry happens to be, I'm sorry, sum and these two guys. So what I'm doing is I'm taking these values. The mod of, let us say I'm taking the sum, and I must take these two values, right? I mean, this one and verify. So I'm doing the XOR of 3 bits. These 2 bits, which are the 2 bits that I need to tap, Q2 and Q3, and one of the outputs. Okay. In the same way, in an ordinary LFSR, I would have directly copied Q1, right? If it's a serial shift register, but this time I'm going to say mod, whatever was coming here, right? Plus and this will be the same as. Another way to think about it is, see the XOR of Q2 and Q3, right? We can call it as some signal, right? So maybe I can show it to you like that. This is the XOR of Q2 and Q3. And I'm going to take that signal here. This signal here. To that I am going to take the sum. Right, and take this. And similarly here, this is this signal plus the carry. So I don't know whether I confused you. Let me repeat it again. Normally you would take Q2 and Q3 and XOR them, right? So I have computed it here. Okay. So this is L2, this is M2, and I have taken the XOR here. Okay. And I'm going to keep it as a temporary variable. Then this one is the temporary variable which I called as I2. Oh, it should be I2, no? Sorry. Yeah, it's I3. See, it's I3. Okay, and I'm going to take this value which is coming from sum. This is S2. Okay, so the carry with this XOR of those two. Similarly, I3 and R2, and this is just shift. Okay, so if I continue this simulation, okay, I will see this to be the golden signature. So 0, 1, 1 is the golden signature. Okay. And if there is an error in the circuit, because of which the sum is always 1, notice that the output changed here. Okay, this is the faulty signature. Okay. But if it's a correct simulation, right? So 0, 0, 1, the output is 1. 1, 1, 0, the output should have been 0. 1, 1, 1 is okay. 0, 0, 1 is also okay. 0, 0, 0 is also should be 0. And this should have been 0. So I will get the good circuit simulation, right? And I can also find the faulty circuit simulation. Is this clear? I mean, did I confuse you guys? Is that okay? Everybody followed? Any doubts in the chat box? Please tell me if there is any doubt. Unfortunately, my diagram is very confusing here. This diagram very confusing. So what I really did was this. I took the XOR of these two and I called it as a temporary value. And this and sum this and one of the inputs is XORed and sent here, and this and the other output. This is my XOR gate. Okay, I should use this. Okay. So the temporary value that I have computed is also going as an input to this XOR gate. Okay. And that is being given as okay. This is what is really happening. Okay. You can even do the same thing to the third bit in case your full adder had the full adder only has two outputs, but if you have n outputs, you can also do it the same. Any doubts? Clear to everybody? Okay. So you can try building a larger LFSR as an exercise. Modeling using Excel is not too bad as a small exercise, right? But at least you will appreciate why they invented all these languages, right? So aliasing might occur if you choose a very small LFSR, okay? But if you are willing to go and build a larger one, let us say 16 bits or something like that, then the chance of aliasing is lesser. It requires more hardware, no doubt, right? But it reduces the chances of LFS. When they use it in communication, this is called as cyclic redundancy codes or cyclic redundancy check. Okay. So this is the same as CRC. These polynomials are the same ones which are used in communication. So what is the application of these? They are used even in testing. See, verification, you can use them, right? You can use them in verification as a, if you want to avoid having to, give too many test benches, right? You can try using this in verification or in practical circuits. See, there could be a memory. Okay, so here is a memory. It may be 2048 times 8. It may be a RAM. So it is a 2K RAM and 8 bits, right? So these 8 bits that are coming out, I can give it to an MISR. And that will give me a signature. So sometimes the memory may have a fault, right? I mean, I may have a cell getting stuck at 0 or 2 cells develop what is called as a coupling fault, right? Or there may be an address decoding fault, right? So many faults can exist in the memory. So when I read out, here is the address bus. Here's the data bus. Okay. And here is your control bus. Maybe read, write. So any one of them, anywhere the error could occur. The address bus may have a problem. Okay. The address decoding which is happening inside may have a problem, right? Or the read signal could be stuck at 1, right? Instead of writing, it's always reading. Or the write is stuck at some value, something like that. So we can go ahead and simulate the good memory. Okay. And we will remember the signature. Okay, this is what will really happen when you reboot your PC, right? Because the PC will have gigabytes of memory, right? So any other form of testing will be impractical, isn't it? Many of you are using PCs with I think gigabytes or something like that nowadays, right? So you can't remember, the good the number of bits that are coming out. If I read all the memory even once, will be huge, right? So instead we can have a so initially the MISR will be reset. Okay, so there is a reset button, so it will go to the all zero state. And in the MISR, the all zero state is okay. See, in the ordinary LFSR, where we were using it as a random pattern generator, I told you that the all zero pattern is not acceptable because all zero state. But in the MISR, it is okay to. You can reset to some known state. It doesn't have to be all zeros, right? But all zeros is the easiest thing to do. And then there'll be a counter somewhere, okay, which counts the number of random signals you will produce. Okay. So you can generate random addresses. For this purpose, you can use your LFSR. So you can use your LFSR to generate random addresses. Okay. And then you will have a idea of what the golden signature is, right? Suppose that golden signature happens to be 00110011, something like this. Okay. And if you get something different, you can also use a counter to drive this. Okay, you can use a counter to drive this so that it is always the same sequence that you are giving as input. So this could be a counter. So you might initially write random patterns. So for the write bus, usually there will be an input data bus also, right? So you will need an input data bus. So again, here you could use LFSR. So when you start, the LFSR will start writing random data. So initially you can control this to be a write. Okay, so write random data, and then in some sequence read out the data and compare the signatures. Okay, and if they are not the same, then you can. So you can all think about how to test a memory. So that is a exercise I'm giving you today. So think about it. Okay. So today I think definitely it was better than yesterday. The experience, not many people complained that I'm not audible, right? So it pays to offer your prayers in the beginning. Any questions? We have about 15 minutes, so if you have questions, please ask. Okay. So to summarize what all I have covered today, I told you what modeling is, right? And I explained how we can model using a simple tool like Excel, right? where you can actually see for yourself all the simulations. See, in Verilog, this kind of visual appeal, right? If you want that, you will have to have waveform display and all that. So today the Verilog simulators, in addition to being able to dump the values like zeros and ones, they can also display the waveform. Okay. I have only shown you $display, which actually displays the stuff like this, but that is not the only way, right? So commercial simulators that are available can plot the waveforms. I have seen some people like to see waveforms and see whether the circuit is working correctly or not, but that is not the only way. Personally, I prefer $display and showing the value rather than because it takes me more work to figure out whether the waveforms are correct. And assert statements can be used to alert if there are any bugs in the circuit. So we looked at modeling. We also talked about the LFSR and SISR and MISR and how they can be used for testing either memory or it could be logic also. See, it's this instead of memory, it can also be logic, right? But logic is a little bit more tricky because random patterns may not always be able to fully test logic. Okay. Memory is very straightforward, right? It is amenable to. By the way, this is called built-in self-test. This is also called built-in self-test. It is self-test because I don't need any external tester to supply these patterns or even look at the outputs. So I can build the necessary logic. See, even the comparison, I can put a comparator, right? If the signature is the golden signature and the actual signature don't match, the error signal can also be computed internally, right? So all that can be built into the circuit, right? So this is a very important block in today's SOC, right? So when I showed you the other day, I told you that in an SOC, right, there'll be CPU, right, and then there'll be memory. So this is the CPU, and this is your memory, and then there may be other blocks like peripherals and so on. So and then okay, the number of memories today will be in the order of hundreds or more, right? Because people use small register files, SRAM, okay, and there may be so many peripherals included in the same SOC today, right? So they will all have memories, right? So as a result, the number of memories is large, right? I have shown you how to connect it for one memory, but imagine there are hundreds of memories and you have to test all of them, right? So then the challenge is even bigger, right? Any doubts? Any questions? Audible? Maybe I am assuming that I'm audible and I'm happily going on. Am I audible?
You are audible, sir. Very much audible.
Quite audible. Okay. See, when a professor says, are there any questions, and nobody asks any questions, you don't know what's going on. It could be because
usually they type in the chat, sir.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that, I'm not even audible and I'm assuming that I'm transmitting very nicely.
But sir, the participants are very aware. They will just complain in the chat box immediately.
Okay, okay. So
They
there
are
is a
enjoying. They are
feedback.
enjoying. Yeah,
Okay, so
they are
there is
enjoying.
a,
Sure.
all right. So tell me if there are any questions. We have only about 10 minutes left. I don't want to start anything new. I just please try the exercises which I am suggesting. So whatever we did today, try doing that as your own exercise. And I'm sure it is, you can, those of you who know Excel quite well and Visual Basic way, you can also be able to write you can make an impressive project where, you can, accept what fault you want to simulate. All that is possible, right? So I'm just giving Excel because I'm unfortunately not able to give you any other tool today. There is a tool called iVerilog. If you want to download it, please go ahead and download. So iVerilog is available for free, but it is a very limited. So iVerilog. Okay. So try that. So if you download it, maybe next time when I get an opportunity, I will show you how to use Icarus Verilog. That okay? Will you try these exercises? Okay, EDA playground, somebody is saying, yeah, I suppose you can use that also. I have not used it that much, but if you have used it, that is good. So
So
feel
last
free to
module,
use.
yes, sir, in module 1,
Hmm.
Neeraj Goyal from IIT Ropar, he just went on to that web-based simulator.
Okay,
Actually,
you
the
can try.
participants would.
So you can give that a try. So if you know, you can use what, try to use. The other question yesterday, somebody asked me, right, whether we can use learning in verification, right? So did anybody think further along that line? Are there any thoughts on that? How we can use machine learning? Where I think it can be possibly used is, debugging, I think, right? See, debugging is still not such an easy thing to do. So if people can use, see, that is where a lot of human intelligence is required, right? So if anybody wants to use machine learning or artificial intelligence for debugging or diagnosing, that may be a very useful thing to do. So you can think along those lines. I will leave that as an open problem for you to think about. And because in all the circuit examples which I was giving, right, at the end, if the signatures don't match, we don't know what fault there is, right? We can't pinpoint the fault. Okay, but if by looking at different simulations, see, I'm allowed to repeat simulations. I can change the sequence and repeat. Nobody's stopping me from doing that, right? From that, if I can somehow tell you what the possible fault is, that is a very useful, So imagine I have a big circuit with a lot of blocks. I know there is a fault, right? But I don't know where it is, right? Even if you can at least point into a small set of modules which could be faulty, it is useful. It will reduce search space. Okay, so that is a hint for you to think about, right? Any other questions? Otherwise, I will let you try these exercises either in Excel or Verilog on the EDA playground. Okay, feel free. So I'm giving you 5 minutes additional today, so you can enjoy your break. Because I'm not seeing any questions. People are becoming very quiet. Hello Arvind ji, कैसे हैं? Can machine
बस
learning used as a tool for logic building in FPGA industry for very complex problems? I don't know. See, logic synthesis is a well understood problem. I don't think there is a particular need for using machine learning there. Okay, unless the objectives are all different. Okay, today synthesis is fairly well understood. The tools are quite good, and they're already able to optimize the area, etc., quite well. So I am not saying it is not possible. It may be possible, but it may not be the most natural problem to solve. See, whenever the algorithms are nicely available, right? See, Boolean minimization has been understood quite well. So I'm not sure whether machine learning will do any better, but I may be wrong. Think about it. This question has come from Abhishek. It's a good question. Presently, the logic synthesis tools are quite good. Any others? Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, guys. I don't have any further questions. I'm going to stop here.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for
All
your
right.
valuable time.
Yes. Okay.
Sir, we would request you to continue if you don't trouble you much that way.
I
Tomorrow
will
is
let you know. I'll let you know.
okay. Sure.
Thank
you very much, sir, for your excellent
you. Okay, guys.
enlightenment.
Bye-bye. Have
Your
a
time,
good
sir. Thank you.
evening. Have a good weekend.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much.
okay, sir. I think that's all from today. If I think we can end the meeting today, and maybe tomorrow at the same time tomorrow we can again meet. Okay. Thank you, all of you. Anything else, sir?
नहीं ठीक है.
ठीक है, sir. Okay,
Yeah.
sir.
Thanks to
Okay.
you and thanks to all participants. Bye.